My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
It's not just Judd's Hockey Show. It's playoff Judd's Hockey Show, which is the only thing better than regular season Judd's Hockey Show, and the only thing that makes it better than that is Jesse Pierce is along for the ride today. It's Judd, it's Declan, it's Jesse. Game 1, Monday night in Dallas. We're very excited. And I have for you two a series of questions that I spent hours on the weekend putting together.
Hours?
Actually, it took me about, I don't know, a couple of seconds. But anyway, they're great questions. They're fantastic questions about this series, about what we are about to see. We will finish with predictions, guys. But let's get right to it, because this is the best time of the year if you're a hockey fan, no question about it. So, Jesse, we will start with you. What is your single greatest confidence going into the Wild Dallas series? What are you the most confident about when it comes to the Wild?
The Minnesota goaltending. And I know that's something that I think still shocks me to this day, that I have turned the corner completely. I was so critical of goaltending last year. I was critical at the beginning because Philip Gustafsson, who the heck is this guy? What is he going to bring? He's a bona fide backup, yada, yada. I was rightfully wrong. And it's not even just Philip Gustafsson. Obviously, he is the lead in my mind. He is your 1A, Marc-Andre Fleury, your 1B. But together, it's a tandem that's going to work. And I love the confidence Dean has given us in the media by saying he's going to use that rotation. They've used it all year long. They have almost equally used both players all year long. Philip Gustafsson, 39 starts, second best goaltender behind Linus Ullmark in the league. How do you not appreciate that? But again, then you have Marc-Andre Fleury with a completely different style of goaltending. Throw him in a series and throw Dallas off. I mean, I'm so excited to watch how this tandem works together during the series, not like we saw last year against St. Louis, but actually using that as a rotation, because that is a recipe for success. That is Minnesota's strongest point of contention without question.
Look at you.
Yeah.
I know.
Look at Jesse Pierce. A year ago, just a doubter, just a naysayer, very Judd-like, and now she thinks the goaltending is fantastic, which it might be.
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest strength, I know this sounds a little weird, and by the way, we are recording this the morning of before Game 1 drops, and about 12 hours after recording this, and Joel Eriksson Ek's status is now, like, honestly questionable, I guess, after what we thought was going to be completely out. But regardless, I think with Ek in, this will help, and with Ek out, I'm not that concerned. I think they are playing playoff hockey here. I think they know their style a little bit more. And I know this has been a up and down situation where sometimes they have players play out of their position or out of their skis a little bit, and they're playing like they have a little bit more skill, which drives Judd absolutely AWOL. And I'm sure I'll get like 17 text messages through the course of the game when Frederick Gaudreau's trying to stick handle in the slot instead of just,
drop
put the puck on the damn net. So both those things will still happen. But I think this team is actually playing its best playoff style hockey. I like that Bill Guerin said if you stacked up this team versus last year's team, that this team would beat last year's team. It's not a sexy game. It's not the 5-on-5 scoring that was so good for them last year. It's a different style, and I think it translates to playoff hockey. And I feel like they can play a system that can win some playoff games and potentially even make a run in the Western Conference.
Ooh. Now, Jesse, on Ek, I'd be curious what you've heard. I have heard that he does have a fracture or a broken foot. He's trying to skate, and basically he can play through it, but if he does, it's going to be with a ton of pain, which then leads to the question, how well is he going to play? Is that along the same lines of what you've heard from being in practice?
It's not his foot. It is above his foot. It's kind of up higher on his calf muscle there. It probably is like a fracture or some weird muscle thing. I was speaking with Wes Walls yesterday, and both of us were there watching X skate ahead of practice. His turns look great. I mean, the way that he is moving with power is very, very promising. The concern is how that translates into the actual in-game style, right? It's still so much harder to make those turns while you're in game. But yeah, I think it really comes down to how much pain are you in? Are you injured or are you hurt? I think that's the difference. And I think a guy like Joel Eriksson Ek, especially depending on how this series goes, will absolutely play through it, because I don't know that he can necessarily hurt it a whole lot more. It's one of those things that just needs the time to heal, from my understanding. But he's a game changer. I think Dex is absolutely right. He is pivotal in this series in particular, but moving forward through the playoffs. So the sooner you can get him back, and even if he's at a 90%, I'll take a 90% Joel Eriksson Ek over no Joel Eriksson Ek. So, hopefully that comes around much sooner. And again, it sounds like it could be earlier in the series than we originally thought.
Okay, so if both of you are going to pass on the confidence thing, I will take the low-hanging fruit of this discussion and say that my confidence is in Kirill Kaprizov, because despite the fact that his teammates pulled a Houdini disappearing act last season against St. Louis, the dude still had 7 goals in 6 games. He seems to rise to the occasion. He's definitely a focus, and he will be a focus of Dallas, but that doesn't take him off his game completely. And I mean, that playoff series against the Blues was one of the few positives, obviously, from the entire team, in the fact that he did have 7 goals over those 6 games. So my confidence is that he will not pull a Fiala, he will not pull a disappearing act, and that Kirill Kaprizov, I don't know if he'll get 7 again, but I think he'll get his for sure.
That seems fair. I mean, yeah, 97. He's still 97, right? Well, and I love when we chatted with him ahead of this series the other day after practice, and he was saying last year. Like, he really is so not focused on anything that happened last year, even the good stuff that he was able to achieve and the success that he was able to have. I mean, he knows it's a completely new year, completely new team. And yeah, I mean, he's still Kirill Kaprizov. I don't think even when he was out with injury and he came right back, he's still Kirill Kaprizov, which thank God for the Minnesota Wild.
All right, question number 2 for the Wild Dallas series. What is your, from confidence to another C word, concern? What is your biggest concern? Dex, we'll start with you, about the Wild in this series.
You know, it's funny because the bread and butter of the Wild is obviously its defense. It's been like the same core of defenders for almost the last 10 years, it feels like, with Spurgeon and Brodin and Dumba and whatnot. But I think the back end, just how everything fits in defensively there. So obviously Brock Faber made a nice impression, but still he's only going to have, 1 NHL game under his belt before he, or 1 or 2 NHL games before he starts playoffs here. John Klingberg hurt himself in practice, but is it a phantom injury? Is it more of a healthy scratch situation? Can you rely on John Merrill to play 14 minutes a night? Spurgeon's going to play 24 minutes basically in this series. So is Brodin. And I like Jake Middleton too, but just how all these defenders can hold up, because now that you've played 9 months of hockey and you're nicked and you're bruised, and X might be dealing with a broken foot, but you have so many players who are just beat up and sore as hell. As much as the defenders are its bread and butter, and that's how the Wild usually have won their games, do they have enough left in the gas tank basically to make life easy on their goaltenders, not putting the Stars in situations where they're scoring easy goals? I know it sounds weird to say, I have questions about how this team plays defensively, but just it's a grind, right? I mean, it's as Judd always says, it's a sacrifice to get to the Stanley Cup. So I have questions, I think, just on the back end of the defensive pairs.
Okay. Jesse?
I mean, that was actually going to be mine too. There have been warts on these defensive pairings a little bit, and they really showed down the stretch, I think, when Minnesota struggled at the end of the regular season here. And the reason that's even a bigger concern is because of your opponent. Dallas has 175 5-on-5 goals, which was 14th in the league, 281 goals in total. They have weapons on every single line right now, and you need every single D pairing to be up to snuff. The John Klingberg, I know defensively he is not great, but still he has so much offensive upside that I need him in and not John Merrill. I need John Merrill hanging out with us in the press box, because he defensively is not good. It's just not good. I don't have another way to put it, but not to keep harping on what Dex said. My other concern is obviously center. Without Joel Eriksson Ek, you don't have a top line centerman. And yes, he didn't play on that quote unquote top line, but he's your number 1 center without question. And Dallas is very strong up the middle. Even their 19-year-old Wyatt Johnson has been absolutely crushing it as a centerman. And they've got so many different weapons and things in the holster that it's not great. I mean, we saw them during the regular season, the Stars destroying the Wild in the faceoff circle. That's just going to continue to happen until you get some better centermen in there. So between defense and center position, it worries me. It definitely worries me.
Yeah, and going back to your secondary point there, Jess, center, faceoffs, Dallas, number 1 in the league, Minnesota, number 26.
Yeah.
So with that, and that's without Ek, who I don't think is a great faceoff man, but he's their best faceoff man. And you go down the list of guys who have taken draws, and the first center for the Wild is down the list. It's Wings did okay, and it's small sample sizes. Okay, so if you guys are going to go with that, I'm going to go with special teams. Special teams concerns me huge. Here's why. Dallas on the power play, 5th, 25%. The Wild has fallen to 15th, 21.4%. And now the net front presence of Ek is gone, at least for now. Penalty kill, Dallas is third, 83.5%. The Wild's 10th, 82%. But this is and I'm sure it'll be harped on, and it's a cliche. This is a stay out of the box series, though. If you're the Wild, and this goes back to what you're saying, Jess, too, with all of the potent players that Dallas has, because they have some elite high-end talent. If you're killing penalties, I think you're in huge trouble. So my biggest concern is special teams and the ability to keep it 5-on-5 as much as possible so that you can play your style as opposed to having to try to work around Dallas having the man advantage.
I'd completely agree.
Yeah, the special teams, when you go 0 for 5 in a playoff or in a regular season game, right, against, pick whoever it is, Seattle or whoever, I mean, that's an issue, and you certainly want to see them capitalize on power plays, but you're only going to get so many in the playoffs. So you can't really have the offers, right? You can't really have the 5 opportunities and you're not cashing in, and especially if the refs are calling things and you're not taking advantage of those. And the Stars just have lethal playmakers. There's a reason why their power play is pretty damn good. So you can't give them too many opportunities, and if you're the Wild, you have to convert. Like you have to walk away with a power play goal each game. Because if you go for offers and in playoff hockey when it's a 1-2 goal situation, you can't let those opportunities slip away.
And I will be interested to see how the Minnesota Wild PK does. They have been so aggressive, 14 shorthanded goals. And when you are going up against such a potent power play, how does that change? We actually asked Dean Evson that yesterday post-practice, and he said they're going to keep playing how the Minnesota Wild do. One of his favorite cliches, one of his favorite things to tell us all the time. But I do wonder, you have to be smart about it. And yes, I think the PK has been very successful on getting those shorthanded goals. But you have to be very, very smart and very, very careful when you're going to be that aggressive against such a hot power play like the Stars have.
Absolutely. All right, the next one, potential hero, and I forget if I put this in your notes, but I did say outside of Kaprizov, because obviously, as I said, I expect him to play well. Who is your potential Wild hero if we take Kirill Kaprizov off the table? Jesse?
It's got to be Matt Boldy. Come on, guys. We love us some number 12 here. No, I think he certainly has stepped up. You look at what he was able to accomplish in Kirill Kaprizov's absence. He's got that confidence heading in. As we've mentioned on the show before, I don't think he'll disappear like Kevin Fiala has done in the playoffs. I think he's just going to continue to keep getting better and better. Marcus Johansson, obviously, okay to go, so that certainly helps. Yeah. And I think there is some chemistry there with Freddie Gaudreau at center. So I think Matt Boldy is going to get you some heroics like you saw him do time and time again this year, scoring with 0 seconds left in overtime. I'm here for it. Give me some good Matt Boldy. He is going to be a hero at least once in the series.
And that's going to be huge because if he's not, they won't win.
Right.
Because Kaprizov, Kaprizov's going to get the attention, right? So Matt, I don't think he can continue at the ridiculous pace he was at in the month of March, but he's going to have to continue to score goals on a consistent basis. In the playoffs, in the 6 games against the Blues last spring, he had 1 goal and that's it. So, and I understand that this is a different player, but it is a player who went scoreless in the month of February. Mm-hmm. So this is, I think you're right. Matt Boldy is going to have to give them something in every single game. There can't be, how can I put this nicely? Karl Anthony Towns nights. How about that? There can't be, I disappeared tonight, but I'll see you tomorrow night. You're right. He is going to have to, as the kids say, step up on a nightly basis here if they're going to make a run at all in the playoffs.
So I'll go with someone who you said just in that rant a little bit, Jess, but I'm going to go with Frederick Gaudreau. So Dean loves him, right? He's Dean Jr. There's a reason they just extended the guy to a 5-year contract. I think he's going to put himself in positions, especially with Ek, maybe, up and down out of the lineup if he's not able to play or what if his foot is going to, stop him from doing the things he does. Is it Frederick Gaudreau the one that steps up and is the one who gets into those greasy areas and can score some big-time goals? And we like to compare things, obviously, in Minnesota sports, and is he kind of your Wes Walls in this playoff series when they went on their Western Conference run, right? He's going to do a lot of dirty things. He's going to be an agitator against a Dallas Star team who is super deep down the middle. So can he put himself in situations, even though he's going to have much more defensive responsibilities, he might not get all the glory with goals and whatnot, but I think he might be the unexpected hero in this series.
I could see that. Yeah. But to go back to what you said at the top of the show, Dex, I think the important thing too is, does he play like Goudreau, or does he,
Right.
or do we start to see him cross the blue line and make a drop pass? Like, he has to know, because he is not. It's not that I think that Ek is like this highly, highly skilled player, but Eriksson Ek brings something that goes beyond like what Goudreau can do, Jesse. So I think Declan's right, but if he starts to try to create, and that's sort of the fine line, right? Like, he's got to play like that third line complete grinder and almost ignore the guys around him and just compliment, as opposed to try and, he can't sit at the cool kids table.
I agree. Well, that's my one
You just
concern
can't.
with it. Like, I'm so intrigued because Joel Eriksson Ek is irreplaceable in so many of the facets that he does. It's just his tenacity, the way he looks at a player and wants people want to punch him. You know, like, he brings that out, the worst out of the opposition. Freddie Gaudreau doesn't do any of that. Like, I just, it's so hard. And you're right, Dex. He has to be able to change his game. And he's a professional hockey player. He knows what his role now is when Joel Eriksson Ek is out. But I have such a hard time picturing him in any way playing like Joel Eriksson Ek. And again, I know you can't replace him, but Freddie Gaudreau is going to have to change his style. And to me, he just seems like your perfect little Frenchman, right? You're just, oh, well, I'm just going to skate around and I'm going to do this. And
Pepe Le Pew?
yeah, something like that. But that's where it's like, I struggle with it, because it's like, you need him to bring a physical presence, because Matt Boldy and Marcus Johansson aren't necessarily it either. And he needs to be that guy. And I have such a hard time seeing it.
So I took Kaprizov off. I'm also going to take, because I've got it written down, but I'm also going to take Philip Gustafsson off as well, because, I mean, goaltenders are going to need to play well. If they don't, they'll just lose. You know what? I'm going to go with a complete dark horse. The third guy I've got written on my notepad here is Gustav Nyquist, okay?
Ooh.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
Okay.
The last playoff game that Nyquist played in was for San Jose against the Avs, April 26th of 2019. The last goal. That's 22 games. The last playoff game he played in was 2020. So he has not had a playoff goal since 2019. But I actually think he's going to get a pretty good chance to play here, health provided. And I also think he brings a veteran presence, but an ability to score. I think that Gustav Nyquist could potentially step up here. Like, and the playoffs are weird because there's always somebody who steps up that you don't really see coming, right? Like, there's always somebody. Now the other guy I thought about, because he had such a good year last season, he's been so disappointing, and much to Jesse's chagrin, he won't be scratched. Foligno. Like, I could see him scoring a goal or two or something weird, but I'm going to go Nyquist. He's been there. He's been around for a long time. He hasn't played, or before he played, 3 games or 5 games at the end of the season. He hadn't played for months, but he looked pretty good. So that's my potential hero, Gustav Nyquist. I don't know if I'll be right or not. All right, let's move on to the GOAT, the potential GOAT of the series. For the Minnesota Wild, there are quite a few potential choices. I believe, Dex, it's your turn to start. Who is your potential GOAT?
Yeah, I'll just go with goaltending here. I think it's goaltending. Whether it's the tandem of both Fleury and obviously not Nyquist, oh my gosh, Gustafsson, whatever the handcuff situation is, or one of them ends up playing more, I'm confident the Wild's goaltending for like the first time in a long time. And Dallas also has a pretty good netminder in Jake Ottinger too, so he's certainly not a slappy. I think the Wild had a better goaltending advantage last year going into the St. Louis Blues series, and all of a sudden it's Jordan Binnington coming in Game 3 and basically stealing the series for St. Louis. But I feel a lot better about the Wild's goaltending here going forward. And it's weird because both goalies, as we've watched, are polar opposites in their style. Fleury likes to be dramatic and get out of his crease and flash his glove. And, I keep calling him Nyquist. God, Gustafsson. I don't know.
I'm in your head. I'm in your head.
Gustav and Gustafsson is now both locked in my brain here.
They both call each other. They're both Gus too.
Yeah, they're both Gus.
I told Gustav Nyquist, I was like, "Do you want to be Gus?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You can't be." He's like, "I know. There's 2 Gus's now."
I will just
love
call
how you
both
asked
of them
him.
Gus.
I did ask him. I was like, "I don't like this."
I'll just say Gus for both, and now you don't know if I'm talking about Nyquist or Gustafsson.
No, you know what? Say Gus and Bus.
Gus and Bus. Yeah, but the Gus Bus parks himself, for the lack of a better word, right in front of the net, and good luck just trying to get a puck by him. So I think both goalies can hold their own in this series, and the Wild aren't going to be in a similar situation last year where they're giving it to Talbot or giving it to the wrong guy with, towards the end of the series. I think this will be all done in due conscience and whatnot. So I trust the Wild's goaltending. I think it's to be their best asset going forward.
I mean, since Dex went ahead and stole mine once again, because I was all on the Gus Bus goaltending train, I will go.
I've got names written down. Look, this is a whole sheet of potential
my
goats.
There's a lot.
I've had nothing to do. For 3 days,
Yes.
I've done nothing but sit there and
That shocks me.
doodle with notes. Okay.
That's all right. 97, obviously, right? Obviously. And again, that's not because of his offensive capabilities, the way he moves the puck, the way he glides around, the way he can cycle, all of that. His physical presence, too, just continues to astound me. The way, I mean, you don't see players that are as skilled and as talented as him still getting into the dirty areas, still being gritty. To quote the Minnesota Wild slogan, grit first. I mean, Kirill Kaprizov embodies everything you want in an elite hockey player. Again, it's just, you love to see it. And he's hungry, right? Like, he's not a guy that likes to lose, and he's not a guy that likes to sit out. Now that he's back, I mean, you can tell he is just going to do everything he possibly can to make sure that this team is successful. And again, that's going to be a challenge. You're going to put your best defenseman on him. He's going to have to really prove himself and just not let up. But I think he's going to do it because he's Kirill Kaprizov, Kirill the Thrill, dollar bill. Give it to me. I want a ton of goals from Kirill this series.
There is no question that the next thing that the Wild team produces again, that will make it just like the last thing. So very, very good. Laid out to get that sound in there. Okay, mine. I'm gonna go potential goat. I'm gonna go off the ice. I'm gonna go to the head coach, Dean Evison.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Look at you.
And here's why. So I sat down this weekend to write a piece for our friends at Minnesota Hockey about Dean's lack of playoff success thus far, which is 3 appearances. It's, it's not a ton. It's 3 though. And I looked into it more and more, and I realized if the Wild as a team, which hasn't won a playoff series since 2015, has to exercise demons, then Dean Evison does as well. And it's independent of this team. It's not those 3. In 4 playoff appearances as the head coach of the AHL Milwaukee Admirals, the top affiliate of the Nashville Predators, Dean Evison was 1-12 and never won a playoff series. So I decided to look at his junior record. Western Hockey League, 3 different teams. He was with Kamloops, the Blazers. He then went to 2 years with the Vancouver Giants, and then was co-coach for 1 year of the Calgary Hitmen with Kelly Kissio. In all 6 years that he coached, he made the playoffs. He won exactly 2 first-round playoff series. In other words, Dean Evison in 13 playoff appearances has won 2 series, which is not the best combination with a team that struggles to win playoff series. There's a lot, though, in my opinion, that goes into coaching in the playoffs. And I think this notion that, the players just play, like we saw with Berube last year. The poster child is Jacques Lemaire 2003. Go back and watch what he did. It was incredible. Like, he was pulling strings. Jacques Lemaire is a massive reason why the Wild got through not 1 but 2 series back then. So coaching becomes very important. And I think coaching is going to be, if the Wild goes out fairly easily here, I'm not saying Dean's in trouble, but it's going to be Billy's going to have a decision to make on what he's seen. Like, this series needs to, if everybody lets the team down, that's one thing. But if it comes back to goaltending change, not made quick enough. Oh, I had to play John Merrill. He's my guy. Oh, I couldn't juggle that line. I don't do that. Dean seems like a very nice guy, and he's a hell of a gritty player, and that's all great. But at some point in time, what we saw last spring was concerning. And if that continues, it's doubly concerning, because at some point in time, this has to end. And I'm already getting tweets about, it's all gravy now. Feel good about what they've done. They're going to they've made the playoffs. It's not their window yet. No, it's not. No, and there's no rule that says you can't win. This is a 2-3. Like, this is not a 1-8. This is a 2-3. So I think that the potential GOAT, if he does not do a very good job, Dean Evison. Your thoughts?
I like it. I mean, I think you're right. Dean does have to prove himself. And I think he's very aware, or at least it seems to us in the conversations we've had leading up to the playoffs, he's aware he did the wrong things last year. He's admitted to that. He told us even again yesterday, we didn't make the right calls. We didn't do the right things as far as the lineup goes. So I think that accountability is huge. I think he recognizes that there needs to be coaching involved in the playoffs. It's not just the players that need to go out there and perform. You need to make these decisions too. And I don't think Dean's ever scared of making them. So I'm not sure what the hesitancy was last year or why he thought maybe he just figured they could put on their bootstraps and pull themselves out of a series deficit, which obviously not able to do, or maybe they got too lackadaisical, whatever it is. I don't think you're going to see that Dean this year. I think you're absolutely going to see a Dean that responds to Pete DeBoer. Pete DeBoer is a coach that has been here before, has had more success too. So he's going to have to really coach against a very successful and achieved coach in Pete DeBoer. So I'm excited to see it. I like it. GOAT is a little strong for me, Judd. I'll give you that, but it's out there. And you know what? I'm all here for the out there takes.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has to pull the right strings here. Now this is playoff series number 3 in a row for Dean Evison, and he's been to a 7-game series with Vegas. They went 6 last year at St. Louis, and as people like to use sample sizes, and small sample size. Well, now we have enough here. Like we're gonna figure out in this first round series how much Dean Evison is going to be the coach here long term. I mean, he's not gonna get fired most likely outside of this playoff series unless they just get completely waxed. I don't see even that happening, but his future rides a lot on how this team performs going forward and into the future after that.
All right. Before we get to the prediction, give me a bold prediction. So not how this is going to end. We'll get to that next.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesse, give me a bold prediction of one thing that you see happening that nobody else sees.
Brock Faber scores his first career goal in the playoffs. I mean, he's going to do it in St. Paul. He's going to play in game 3. He's going to do it in St. Paul. I'm going very strong on that.
Love it.
You want good things happening to good people, and Brock Faber is a good person. I love this opportunity for him. And not even that. I didn't like his second game as much as his first game, but I still love what he can provide. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, there are warts on the defense that could be fixed, and why not have Brock Faber go in there and play out of his mind? He's going to score in St. Paul. Crowd's going to go nuts. My story is going to be so easily written that evening.
If he plays with Klingberg, who's on the right side? Who's on the left
Faber's
side?
on the right. Klingberg's on the left.
Oh, okay. All right.
Does that concern you?
Yeah, or we don't like
big
this?
exhale.
Yeah, Faber. They're doing it because Klingberg has more experience, but Klingberg is Faber plays a very clean Brodin-esque type of game.
Mm-hmm.
I would make him transition, and I did check. Insiding done, told by my sources, he did play some left side at the U. I don't want to ask any more of Klingberg than the Flingberg. I just want the fling. The Kling fling is all I want from him. I don't want to ask him to do anything else. That's just my feeling. Dex?
All right, my hottest take, if you will, going in this series is Ryan Reeves scores a game-winning goal.
Oh,
Nice. Yes.
I think Ryan Reeves puts himself in the right position, whether this is overtime or clinches a game-winning goal, whatever the GWG stands for. Basically, at the end of it, in the box score, Ryan Reeves. He someone always shows up randomly in these playoff games, and I'm gonna go with Revo. He's gonna be throwing his weight around. I love how classic Minnesotans who loathed him against the Vegas Golden Knights and thought he was a complete clown show are like, oh, yeah, now we love Ryan Reeves. Isn't that funny how that works? He's on your team, and now you think he's great. I think Ryan Reeves shows up big time and gets a game-winning goal.
Like it. I do. He's going to have to swat it in, and he's going to have to go hit a local rink up before he does it to get chirped by a bunch of 10-year-olds to tell him he can't score, and then he tends to roll. And if the game's on TNT, you're guaranteed a Ryan Reeves goal as well, I think, right?
and you know what? At the age of 10, I wouldn't have been chirping Ryan Reeves.
No.
Like if you piss him off, he could destroy me, and I'm 53 and old. I'd be like, Mr. Reeves, how are you?
Yeah.
Good luck tonight.
Did you see Brock Faber chirp Ryan Reeves and immediately back down?
No, but good
on
for him.
video, Faber was like, yeah, Revo's not as tough as he thinks he is, and Reeves is off camera, and he goes, you better hope I re-sign here next year. And he's like, yeah, maybe I take that one back. Never mind.
Yeah. Brock, young Brock. Don't get too confident. So you guys both have uplifting ones. So here's mine.
Of course.
Here's my bold prediction. Because here's the thing. I think Dean is going to make in-series adjustments, partially because he didn't last year. I'm also going to wonder if Billy's going to be a little bit more hands-on, because like behind the scenes, personnel folks always talk. Like it's not like it's this, the coaches, that's the biggest bunch of BS. So I'm going to make this bold prediction. Marcus Foligno gets scratched in the game for Oscar Sundqvist.
Ooh.
So they do it. Oscar Sundqvist has cups. He's got a cup background. He's got played in a ton of playoff games. And I was breaking down the lines after Jesse tweeted him out on Sunday, and there's not a lot of places that Sundqvist can slot in. Mm-hmm. He could slot in fourth line, but I don't think you're going to break up that fourth line. I think that fourth line's fine, and it serves a purpose. Like it's a very specialized type of line. So the one place that Sundqvist would fit is Foligno's spot. And what better example of the ultimate sacrifice, putting yourself aside and putting team first, than to not moan and complain about that move. And Dean knows he can count on Foligno. Sundqvist deserves to play. Like he didn't do one thing that I saw where I'm like, he shouldn't play. Mm-hmm. So I think we get a game in which Marcus Foligno pays the ultimate hockey sacrifice of sitting in the press box. One, so Sundqvist can play, but two, because the message there, everybody in the boat. Mm-hmm. Nobody goes astray. All right.
I hope you get chirped as hard as I did for that take there. Just so we're clear.
Jesse, you should have seen my Twitter mentions this weekend off some Wolves stuff I put out. I literally was under attack the entire weekend.
I think it's a good trade. Sundqvist was a huge reason that the Blues won that Stanley Cup, if not the top. So give it a go. I like it.
All right, Dex, we're going to start with you. Final thing. Give me your series prediction.
Wild in 7. Wild in 7. I think the Wild are able to get by Dallas. I think they get their first playoff series win in like 7 years, essentially. It snaps this long streak. It'll be a grind to do it. Dallas is a really good team. The Wild are battling some injuries, and they're not as hot as Dallas is right now after they've basically ran the table. That Dallas, that is, towards the last month of the season to give themselves home ice. But I think the Wild win this series, and they win it in 7 games.
Jesse?
God damn it, Dex. 7 games, Wild win. That's what I was predicting as well. I think it's going to go to 7 because I do think that Minnesota has a better swag about them heading forward. They weren't as hot. They had to go through so much adversity this year compared to last year that's going to bode incredibly well for them. They're not going to get down on themselves if they go down 2-0. They're not going to get too high on themselves if they're up 2-0 in the series. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. Dallas is good. They are on a 6-game win streak heading in. They're 10-2-1 in their past 13, and Minnesota not as hot coming out of the regular season. Dallas has all these key players: Miro Heiskanen, Jake Ottinger, Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnson, Jamie Benn playing like Jamie Benn of 5 years ago. I mean, everything for Dallas is looking good, but I think Minnesota has the mentality and the grit. Keep using that slogan because I know how many people hated it, but the grit first mentality. It's true. I think that's going to bode well. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun 7-game series. It's going to be close, but Minnesota will advance to the second round for the first time since 2015 in 7 games here.
So Declan has the Wild in 7. Jesse, the Wild in 7. I, of course, am going to agree with them and say it's time to end the drought. Wow. It's time to end the drought, and I'm tired of already the excuses. Well, you know what? If Bill Guerin doesn't make the excuses himself, why is anyone, and I'm not saying the entire fan base because it's not, but why is anyone making excuses? This team is built to play in the playoffs. And what Dean says is cliched, but he's exactly right. If they play the frustrating style, and I mean this, be prepared if the Wild is playing well to be bored. Mm-hmm. Be prepared to be bored and embrace it. If I hear anyone complain This is 2003. If you're going to make a run, you're going to have to slow teams down. And if you try and beyond the guy that wears 97, if you try to play it with a Dallas or hell, an Avs first line, you're going to get run out of the building. So you know what? Goaltending, Gustafsson has to start, but goaltending has to be huge. Everyone on defense has to step up and play well. And the forwards have to be gritty. They have to. It's not going to be pretty. And by the way, Matt Zuccarello, mix in a freaking goal, please. Matt Zuccarello, I didn't mention him, but my God, I was looking up the numbers yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's the other move too, is Dean, listen to me and listen to me good. If Zuccarello's not playing well, you got to get him off the Kaprizov line.
Yes.
And I don't want to hear anyone whine and moan and complain. He's got to come off that line. This is not a God-given right to be on that line because Kirill babysits your kid, okay? This is the bleeping playoffs. I'm fired up.
True. I like it. Do you know Matt Zuccarello has a flipper? Fun fact. Found that out yesterday.
A what?
He has a flipper. He's missing his front teeth.
Oh,
Never
really?
knew that about him. Yeah.
No.
Fun fact. Just take that with you. Take that in with you.
Thank you
Do
very
what
much.
you will. You're welcome.
Well, you know what?
I know. It's very weird.
He can be spending plenty of time with his flipper in the press box at his current rate, okay? Because I need more. Come on, dude. Final thoughts before we go.
Just excited to watch some playoff hockey here. I mean, it's the third year in a row we get to watch it, and yes, I want to see the Wild actually get by the damn first round. That's just for once win a gosh dang playoff series for once without forcing me to swear on this podcast. That's what I want to see. Win a playoff series.
I have been covering this team since 2017, so I've yet to see a second round. I would love to experience that. I would just love to see what that might be like. It sounds really fun. I've heard good things of teams past, and I would like to experience that.
Playoff runs are great. All right, Declan, take us home, and we'll be back with Jesse at some point in time soon, I'm sure, to discuss the playoff series against Dallas.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button for Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. Judd's Hawk Show will be live after every game throughout this playoff run. Hopefully, yes, I said run, not just the first round series. We'll be bringing you on. We'll have some takes on it. Judd will be live from the X when there's home games in St. Paul as well. So if you want to join the show, let us know. We'd love to hear from as many Wild fans as possible. And we'll be talking to you after each game. Pass, shoot, score.